Police have arrested 2 suspects following the arson attack that gutted Pembroke Technical College. The accused are 18-year-old identical twins, June and Jennifer Gibbons.
We had our language. Me and my sister spoke. We knew what we were saying.
June and Jennifer Gibbons. To the world, they were the silent twins. 2 girls who looked identical, moved identical, and refused to utter a single word to anyone but each other. They were locked in a dance that would only end when the music stopped for one of them. To understand the darkness, we must look at the roots. Their family was from Barbados, part of the Windrush generation, but the twins were born in a military hospital in Aden, Yemen. A global beginning that ended in the claustrophobic confines of Haverfordwest, Wales. In their community, they were the only black family. The isolation didn't just start from within, it was forced upon them from the outside. School became a daily gauntlet of bullying and rejection. So, June and Jennifer made a choice. A radical, terrifying choice. If the world would not accept them, they would reject the world entirely. They built a wall of silence. Eventually, they stopped making eye contact with anyone. Behind closed doors, however, they were anything but silent. To the outside world, their communication sounded like cryptophasia, a secret language invented by twins. But June would later reveal the truth. They were speaking English, but twisted by a severe speech impediment and sped up to a manic pace that only they could decode. As they grew older, the synchronization became unnerving. They didn't just speak together, they moved together. It wasn't telepathy. It was an obsession. Trapped in their bedroom, their minds needed an escape. They turned to writing, and what poured out of them was shocking. Their stories were not the diaries of innocent teenagers. They were filled with lust, crime, and brutal violence. June wrote The Pepsi-Cola Addict, desperate to be seen, not as a freak, but as an artist. But the rejection slips piled up. The world remained deaf to their voices. When the pen failed, they turned to something louder. Fire. They torched a tractor shed, watching it burn to the ground. They broke into the local technical college to start a fire. They vandalized a boys' school. Each flame, each broken window was a desperate scream, a signal to a world that looked right through them. The judicial system was baffled. They were assessed, categorized as dangerously unmanageable, and detained indefinitely under the Mental Health Act. They were sent to Broadmoor Hospital, a fortress that housed notorious figures like the Yorkshire Ripper and Ronnie Cray. For 11 agonizing years, Broadmoor swallowed them whole. They were separated, placed in different wards, desperate to break their bond. High doses of antipsychotic medication dulled their senses. The manic speed of their speech slowed down. The writing stopped. It was here, in this cold desolation, that the journalist Marjorie Wallace entered their lives. She became one of the few people to breach their walls, and through her, the world learned the terrifying truth of their bond. They weren't just sisters, they were engaged in a war for survival. Jennifer wrote those words in her diary, words that chill the blood.
We have become fatal enemies in each other's eyes. I say to myself, can I get rid of my own shadow?
They realized a horrifying truth. They could not live together, but they could not live apart. One of them had to leave this world for the other to truly exist. The twins were finally granted a transfer to the Caswell Clinic in Wales. It was supposed to be a new beginning, but June later recalled that Jennifer had been speaking of dying for days, as if it were a scheduled appointment. As the transport vehicle rumbled down the highway, Jennifer rested her head on June's shoulder. She reportedly whispered that at long last they were out. But as the miles passed, her eyes remained open, blank. The doors of the hospital opened, but Jennifer did not wake up. She was rushed to emergency, but it was too late. At the age of 29, the silent twin fell silent forever. The autopsy deepened the mystery. Acute myocarditis, a sudden inflammation of the heart. There were no drugs, no poison, no signs of violence. It was as if her heart had simply decided to stop beating, fulfilling the dark promise she had made. In the days following the tragedy, June Gibbons spoke to Marjorie Wallace. Her words were a mixture of grief and a terrifying relief. She said,
I'm free at last, liberated, and at last Jennifer has given up her life for me.
The spell was broken. June began to speak. Over the years, she built a quiet, independent life in West Wales. A life she could never have had while her shadow was still attached. But freedom brought with it a different kind of silence. Survival came with a haunting task. June became the keeper of the archives, the sole guardian of the millions of words they had written in their dark isolation. Diaries, plays, poems, stacked in trash bags, hidden away like dangerous artifacts. Experts now look at their work and see misunderstood potential. Had they been nurtured instead of institutionalized, had they been given a microphone instead of medication, the world might have known the Gibbons sisters not as monsters, but as literary icons. The system didn't just silence their voices, it tried to erase their minds. June once said,
We were one soul in two bodies.
Now, that soul writes with one hand, carrying the weight of a ghost in every sentence she drafts. The story of June and Jennifer Gibbons remains one of the most unsettling mysteries of modern psychology. It challenges everything we know about identity. Where does I end and we begin? Is love truly selfless if it requires the annihilation of the self? Some call it a pact. Others call it a prophecy fulfilled. But the silence they shared was largely a mirror held up to a society that refused to understand them. They created a world because the real one offered them no place. Today, June lives a quiet life, blending into the crowd, a stark contrast to the manic energy of her youth. But one has to wonder, in the quiet moments when the house is still, does she still hear the rapid-fire whisper of her sister? Jennifer is gone. The silence is broken. But the echo of their bond, that terrifying, beautiful, fatal devotion, will ring out forever.